Live pictures coming in from Singapore of the ceremonial room where the signing of some sort of document is going to take place between US President Donald Trump and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. The two chairs have been placed there. Earlier, officials came and placed two pens as well. Donald Trump himself said that there would be some kind of a signing. It's uncertain at the moment what exactly is being signed, but some kind of an agreement has been reached. So they came, they saw, and they discussed, and they've reached some kind of agreement. The leaders of the US and North Korea have had a historic meeting in Singapore. After months of trading barbs and insults, President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un first shook hands with each other before the summit at a luxury resort in neutral Singapore. The leaders of the two countries, which have practically been at war for over 6 decades now, held a one-on-one discussion. This was with only translators present first. That lasted for about 45 minutes, following which delegates from both the countries joined the two leaders to discuss the way ahead. On the US delegation, apart from the President, was the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the Chief of Staff General John Kelly, and the National Security Advisor Ambassador John Bolton. On the North Korean delegation, apart from Kim Jong-un, Kim Yong-chol, the Vice Chairman of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party, who had traveled to the White House, Ri Soo-young, the Vice Chairman of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party, and Ri Hyong-ho is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So senior leaders on both sides. Another handshake there. And then they moved to the expanded working lunch, where expanded delegation of both sides were present. Part of the delegation included the former military intelligence chief of North Korea, Kim Yong-chol, who had traveled to the White House. President Trump making a statement to reporters there, hoping that they had got a fantastic shot and made them look thin, smart, and fantastic. And that's coming close in line to his tweets over the last 6 months, where he referred to Kim Jong-un as short and fat. The working lunch was also attended by Kim Jong-un's sister, the first Deputy Director of the Central Committee of Workers' Party of Korea, Kim Yo-jung, as well as Sarah Sanders, the White House Press Secretary, Ambassador Sung Kin, the U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, and Matthew Pottinger, the Deputy Assistant to the President for Asian Affairs. Two other North Korean leaders, the first Deputy Director and a Director of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party, also joined.
Really fantastic meeting. A lot of progress. Really very positive. I think better than anybody could have expected. Top of the line. Really good.
Mr. President,
we're going right now for a signing.
Has he agreed to give up any nuclear weapons, sir?
What are you signing, sir?
Ambassador Arun Singh is still with us in our WION studios and live from Singapore. Ramesh Ramachandran has been following those developments second by second. Ramesh, this signing that we are waiting for, we don't know what exactly it will be, but is it exceeding expectations?
Well, Amita, it's been 5 hours since the two leaders made their way from the respective hotels to the Capella Hotel on the Sentosa Island here in Singapore. And since then, we've been given to understand that a joint statement is being signed as we speak between the two leaders, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Preparations are being made for the signing of that document. And that itself is significant because that would indicate a sense of forging a common understanding, at least a statement of intent from both sides on the way forward on some of the contentious issues. Remember, these two countries have been at war for nearly 7 decades now. They do not have diplomatic ties. So the lower hanging fruit would be to decide to end the hostilities, end the war, by way of a peace treaty sometime going forward, at least to signal the intent of proceeding in that direction. Also on the issue of sanctions, denuclearization, some of these issues will be discussed in the joint statement, but the actual meat, the substance of the issues will be fleshed out going forward. But at least here they would have made progress on agreeing to talk, even going forward at regular intervals at various levels between the two countries.
Right, Ramesh, we're still seeing those closed doors there, expecting both leaders to walk in. Ambassador Singh, one U.S. official has been quoted as saying that this signing of the document will acknowledge the progress of talks and pledge to keep momentum going. So is that very general, or is that what's expected from one of them?
This is very general.
So we'll have to see, because if it is only going to say that there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of progress being made, the process will continue, that is neither here nor there. I think people would perhaps be satisfied to some extent, at least in terms of the US expectation, if there is some commitment in terms of how inspections, limits related to the nuclear capacity, related to the missile program are brought into the joint document. If that is not there, then really it is more a minimalist kind of document and more an effort to project that the process so far, the summit itself has been successful. But if something is brought in terms of processes on the nuclear and the ballistic missile program, it would perhaps satisfy many of the critics in the US who are watching this process very closely.
Ramesh, so both leaders obviously have their own domestic constituencies to play out for. President Trump will have to go back with, he will portray anything as a victory, of course, but he will have to go back with something. We believe North Korean state television has about an hour to go. They're still showing color bars before they actually, maybe we see that famous anchor who comes up on North Korean television as well. But as analysts have been pointing out, this is a process. This will, even if they reach agreement on denuclearization or any specifics of that nature, it will take a long time.
Indeed, the wording of the joint statement would be significant, Amitabh, and it might mirror the joint statement issued by Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in after they met for the third Inter-Korean summit at the Panmunjom village in the demilitarized zone in the last week of April, where North Korea, Kim Jong-un, agreed in principle to pursue the goal of denuclearization, and that those words may find a reflection in the joint statement here in Singapore as well between the US and North Korea. Remember, he may not go beyond expressing his intent to pursue that goal, and the detail might be fleshed out going forward.
Ramesh, in fact, the doors have opened and both leaders are currently walking out into that room where that ceremonial signing is going to take place. Let's just watch and see if there will be any comments from the two leaders.
So we're signing a very important document, a pretty comprehensive document, and we've had a really great term together, a great relationship. I'll be giving a news conference at 2:30, which is in a little bit less than 2 hours, and we'll discuss this at great length. In the meantime, I believe that they'll be handing it out on behalf of Chairman Kim and myself, and we're both very honored to sign the document. Thank you.
우리가 매우 중요한 문서에 서명을 하게 될 것입니다. 이 문서는 굉장히 포괄적인 문서이고 오늘 굉장히 좋은 아주 훌륭한 회담을 가졌고 또 아주 좋은 관계를 구축하였습니다. 2시 반, 즉 다시 말해서 약 2시간 후에 나는 기자회견을 할 예정입니다. 거기서 좀 더 자세하게 말씀을 드리겠습니다만은 일단 그 와중에 그동안에는 발표문이 기자들에게 배포될 것으로 알고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Would you like to say something to the press?
우리는 오늘 역사적인 이 만남에서 지난 과거를 덮고 새로운 출발을 알리는 그 역사적인 문건에 서명을 하게 됩니다.
Today, we had a historic meeting and decided to leave the past behind, and we are about to sign a historic document.
세상은 아마 중대한 변화를 보게 될 것입니다.
The world will see a major change.
오늘과 같은 이런 자리를 위해서 노력해 주신 트럼프 대통령께 사의를 표합니다.
I would like to express my gratitude to President Trump to make this meeting happen.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. President, did he agree to denuclearize first?
We're starting that process very quickly. Very, very quickly. Absolutely.
Mr. President, 100% denuclearization?
Did you talk about auto-warm beer, sir?
Kim, would you agree to give up your nuclear arms?
You'll be seeing everything in just a little while. The letter that we're signing is very comprehensive, and I think both sides are going to be very impressed with the result. A lot of goodwill went into this, a lot of work, a lot of preparation. I want to thank everybody on both sides, Secretary Pompeo and all of his counterparts. They were absolutely fantastic.
네, 조금 후에 우리가 서명한 발표문의 내용에 대해서 곧 알게 될 것입니다. 아까도 얘기했습니다마는 매우 포괄적인 그러한 문서이고 양측이 그 결과에 대해서 굉장히 만족할 만한 결과입니다. 이 문서를 서명하고 또 이러한 그 만남을 갖기 위해서 많은 사람들이 선의를 가지고 노력했고 또 많은 준비 작업이 있었습니다. 그 양측의 그러한 작업을 해주신 분들에 대해서 감사드립니다. 거기에는 폼페오 장관뿐만 아니라 조선 측의 그러한 여러 참여자분들에게 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you a little bit later. And we're very proud of what took place today. I think our whole relationship with North Korea and the Korean Peninsula is it's going to be a very much different situation than it has in the past. We both want to do something. We both are going to do something. And we have developed a very special bond. So people are going to be very impressed. People are going to be very happy. And we're going to take care of a very big and very dangerous problem. And I want to thank Chairman Kim. Spent a lot of time together today, very intensive time. And I would actually say that it worked out for both of us far better than anybody could have expected. I think far better. I watched the various news reports. I would say far better than anybody even predicted. And this is going to lead to more and more and more. And it's an honor to be with you. Very great honor. Thank you. Thank you to all of your representatives very much.
오늘 둘 다 뭔가 이루어내려고 싶어하고 또 둘의 특별한 관계가 오늘 시작됐습니다. 그리고 우리는 아주 여러 가지 중요한 여러 가지 문제의 해결에 시작을 했다라고 말씀드릴 수가 있습니다. 김 위원장님께 감사드리고 또 내가 보기에는 오늘 만남이 누가 기대했던 것보다 또 누가 예측했던 것보다도 좋은 만남이고 좋은 결과로 이루어질 것 같습니다. 또 앞으로 더 많은 진척이 있을 것 같고 이렇게 만나게 된 것을 영광으로 생각합니다. 김 위원장님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Will you invite Chairman Kim to the White House?
Absolutely, I will.
Mr. Kim, would you like to come to Washington?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
US President Donald Trump and North Korean Chairman Kim Jong-un are signing documents there at the end of their meeting. Ramesh Ramchandran is with us live from Singapore. Ambassador Arun Singh in our studios. Ramesh, we heard some comments as well. We're still waiting for actual facts on what the documents that were signed there. But President Trump saying that this is a very comprehensive document that has been signed, though we don't know what exactly it is.
Absolutely, Amitabh. He used the words comprehensive and relationship, and that to my mind indicates some discernible progress on the talks that the two have had here in Singapore. Chairman Kim, for his part, saying it's a historic moment and that the world will see a change. Now, this is consistent with the official Korean media reportage, which says that they will talk about the possibilities of responsibilities which two countries will entail in a changed era, and that is reflected in Chairman Kim's statement as well. We talked about the world will see a change, and Trump, for his part, saying that it went off better than expected. So, all in all, Amitabh, things seem to be upbeat, and both sides expecting to derive maximum mileage from their respective vantage positions on the issue of the denuclearization and the other contentious issues bedeviling the relationship.
But there's some maximum mileage there, because President Trump was asked on denuclearization. He said we are moving towards that very, very quickly, though he he ignored the question on 100% denuclearization.
A couple of things struck me from the process and the comments that were made. Chairman Kim spoke about leaving the past behind. So whether that's some kind of a reference to the possibility of a peace treaty being worked out, aside from other things. Then very cleverly he thanked President Trump for enabling this happen. And I think that's important if you want to keep President Trump positively engaged in this process and moving ahead. Again, I noticed that both in the comment that President Trump had made outside to the media when somebody asked him, is he giving up on the nuclear weapons? And then here also somebody yelled out that, is he going to denuclearize? And there the answer was that that process was going to start very quickly. So obviously, as everyone was anticipating, that perhaps there would be some reference to a process starting on that, but then what will the process entail?
Correct.
One of the things to watch out for would be what happens to the THAAD missiles that the US has put on South Korea after North Korea carried out a series of missile and nuclear tests. Because China had also objected, taken strong objection to that. There had been opposition within South Korea. Now whether the US will do something on that would again be something to watch out for. And again, Trump said repeatedly that it went far better than expected or predicted, but that's something he would like to project. But one can safely say that the summit itself has gone off as well as it could have. And I think that was the effort to show it as very, very successful. It works for both the leaders. Now we have to see what is the content of the document and how it is taken forward.
He's saying it's starting the process very, very quickly is what President Trump said. Let's just listen to those comments that were made while signing those documents by both Chairman Kim and President.
포괄적인 문서이고 오늘 굉장히 좋은 아주 훌륭한 회담을 가졌고 또 아주 좋은 관계를 구축하였습니다. 2시 반, 즉 다시 말해서 약 2시간 후에 나는 기자회견을 할 예정입니다. 거기서 좀 더 자세하게 말씀을 드리겠습니다만은 일단 그 와중에 그동안에는 발표문이 기자들에게 배포될 것으로 알고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Would you like to say something to that?
우리는 오늘 역사적인 이 만남에서 지난 과거를 덮고 새로운 출발을 알리는 그 역사적인 문건에 서명을 하게 됩니다.
Today, we had a historic meeting and decided to leave the past behind, and we are about to sign a historic document.
세상은 아마 중대한
Great personality and very smart. Good combination.
Is he a worthy negotiator?
Really, he's a worthy negotiator. Negotiating on behalf of his people, a very worthy, very smart negotiator, absolutely. And we had a terrific day. And we learned a lot about each other and about our countries. So.
What did you learn about him? What did you learn about him, sir?
I learned he's a very talented man. I also learned that he loves his country very much.
When will you see each other again?
I'll see you again.
Will you be meeting again, sir? Will you see each other again?
We'll meet again. We'll meet many times. Thank you very much, everybody.
So that seems at least sealing with another handshake of documents or agreement that has been signed between Donald Trump and Chairman Kim Jong-un. President Trump calling it a very important document, a pretty comprehensive document, as the Singapore summit has now ended. But we do expect the White House, possibly President Trump himself, or at least Secretary of State Pompeo or the Press Secretary Sarah Sanders to address the press conference in about 2 hours. That's what we expect. Ambassador, just coming back to you again there, talking about leaving the past behind, a pretty comprehensive document. He was also asked whether he would invite Kim Jong-un to the White House, and he said, yes, I will. So they're looking at this as a process and continuing to engage.
Yes, if he's signaling that he will invite him to the White House, that takes it to another level. And because invitations to the White House are kept deliberately as a signal of endorsement.
And if I heard it correct, he said, I will. So it possibly hasn't already.
So So, but even to say that I will invite him to the White House is...
But he's holding it out for something.
Sure. And then another thing that struck me was that if you see the signing ceremony, the documents that are being handed out on the US side by Secretary of State Pompeo, and on the North Korean side probably by the North Korean leader's sister, which is very unusual, because normally when a signing takes place, the documents are coordinated by junior level officers, and so this again to signal that the importance that is being attached at very top level leadership on both sides is involved in this process, not just the two leaders. So clearly something significant has happened. Now of course we have to wait to see the content of that.
See the content. Ramesh, just coming back to you, when President Trump was asked about denuclearization, he did say we're starting that process very quickly, very, very quickly.
Indeed, and this is consistent with the North Korean position, Amitabh. As I mentioned before, this was articulated and mentioned in so many words in the joint statement issued towards the end of the third Inter-Korean summit as well, between Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, where he signaled his intent to pursue the goal of denuclearization. The contentious issue is how quickly will they get to that goal, and that remains, to my mind, a contentious issue even now, in spite or even after the summit meeting here between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. But we can expect the formulation in such a way that they will express the intent to continue their negotiations going forward, and in the meantime make incremental progress on the other issues which are more easily resolvable in the immediate future.
And Ramesh, you were talking about Kim Yo-jong earlier, the Kim Jong-un's sister. Well, she was very much present at the end and at the working lunch between the extended delegations, and handing out those documents. And as Ambassador was pointing out, it was Secretary of State Pompeo who was doing it from the American side, indicating how much importance they were giving to this.
Absolutely. She's been a constant companion for Kim Jong-un, and we saw her actually receive a bouquet from Kim Jong-un when he stepped across the military demarcation line in the last week of April for the Inter-Korean summit. So she is virtually her chief of staff, so to speak, always at his side, at his beck and call. And even here we saw her actually take part in the nitty-gritties of the negotiation of the signing of the joint statement. So clearly she is a consequential member of the inner core team of Kim Jong-un, and that is only to be expected given the fact that she is his sister and a valuable member of the Kim family, the Kim regime.
Ramesh, and you are expecting some sort of a press conference. The White House had said so. We're not sure whether will it be the president himself, or is he leaving before the time that was scheduled for a press conference?
Well, I suspect the briefing will be from the State Department, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, or even his Press Secretary, Sarah Sanders. But that said, anything is possible when you're talking about Donald Trump. He may or may not address a news conference, but he can certainly be expected to tweet some in the next few hours about how the meeting went with Kim Jong-un. For his part, Trump exuding confidence that the meeting went off well, better than expected by many in America and around the world. And he used the word comprehensive to describe the joint statement of the negotiations that have taken place here in Singapore, and that they've tried to arrive at a relationship. And that's why I find it significant. It holds the potential of transforming the relationship from one of animosity or hostility to one of peace and tranquility, as the name suggests here by Sentosa in Malay language means peace and tranquility, and that might have rubbed off in the summit meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un here, Amitabh.
Ambassador, what it's being called by people who are covering the event is a comprehensive agreement on the future of diplomacy, a path between the US and North Korea. So it is, in a sense, what you were talking about earlier, minimalist. We'll have to wait, of course, for the exact wording to come out.
So we'll have to wait for the text. I think, and although the summit has gone off clearly well in terms of the optics and how it will be played, and people would welcome the fact that there would be some reduction of tension on the Korean Peninsula. But people will compare as to what has been agreed here, how does it compare with what has been agreed in the Iran case? And is it something stronger? Because after all, President Trump has walked away from the Iran nuclear deal. And the difference would be that in the North Korean case, whereas the Iranian one had focused entirely on the nuclear program, in the North Korean case, it can be expected that there would be a focus on the nuclear and the missile program, because the US is also concerned about the missile program. In Iran's case, there was some concern related to Iran's activity in the Gulf region, be it in Syria, be it in Yemen. In North Korea's case, that is not a challenge, because North Korea's problem is with South Korea, and South Korea itself is pushing the process. China would also certainly want to see reduction of tension. So that is not so much a problem. So I think the crux of the question would be that on North Korea's nuclear program itself, how does it compare with the kind of commitments that Iran had undertaken, and yet the US has walked back? And that will become sort of the litmus test or the lodestar for people to judge everything by.
Sure. Ramesh, though the two leaders themselves seem to have made the effort already, probably had decided to make that effort of getting to know each other. President Trump, when he was asked about Kim Jong-un, said he's very talented and he loves his country a lot. Earlier we saw pictures also of the president showing Chairman Kim the Beast, the armored limousine, just before the signing ceremony. So they seem to have at least built on a personal rapport. We seem to have lost the line with Ramesh, but we'll get back to him. The personal rapport that they have achieved, and there's been so many shots we're seeing now. I believe this is the American president leaving. We'll have to just wait to see those flags, or is it the North Korean leader himself? Handshakes, no hugs, of course, but myriads of handshakes and the personal rapport in terms of President Trump at least had the advantage of being able to speak to English to the international media there. But personal rapport-wise, it's gone off well?
Well, I think President Trump deliberately wanted to signal that there's a personal rapport. And in fact, even earlier, he had said that I'm sure I can build a good relationship with him. So it was part of President Trump's political play to show that he's achieved something, he's built a great relationship, he's built personal rapport, and so he's achieved that. And I think that part was certainly pre-planned, choreographed. It was not something that was happening really spontaneously on the occasion. So he wanted to show that, he wanted to project that. It serves well for his own image, serves well for what he wants to project back home in the US, that he's a great deal maker, he can do things differently, he'll do things that no other American president has done, and that's part of the persona he wants to build for himself.
Ramesh Ramchandran rejoining us now. We've re-established the line with him live in Singapore. Ramesh, we were just discussing the personal rapport between the two leaders. There was a moment apart from the handshakes and the conversations they had, both delegation level and one-on-one, when the president and Chairman Kim actually looked at the Beast, the armored limousine that the US president travels in.
Absolutely. You know, there's one striking similarity between Trump and Kim Jong-un. Although they have contrasting personalities, one similarity is that both pursue personalized diplomacy and top-down diplomacy. By that I mean they set out the agenda and allow their diplomats to execute what they set out for to achieve. So clearly in that respect, both seem to be on the same page, same wavelength as far as the modality or the way forward on resolving some of the contested issues. It remains to be seen, however, that whether these two sides can make any substantial, tangible progress in the days, months and years ahead. Because this, let's face it, Amitabh, nobody expected a breakthrough in one summit, in one meeting between the two leaders here in Singapore for the first time ever in their respective countries' history. So this, as Trump himself said, should be seen as a part of a process, the first of a series of meetings that will take place over the next few months going forward, and in which both sides can take the opportunity to thrash out issues and resolve some of the contested issues bedeviling the relationship. So at the moment, as things stand, this, I would see it as a statement of intent, signaling the two leaders intend to pursue talks going forward at regular intervals, keep the momentum up, and see that they do not dissipate the energies that they've spent here in Singapore. They do not go waste going forward.
Ambassador, a lot of homework was done by these officials on both sides before this summit. Now, is it back to them before the two leaders meet again?
Absolutely. So, Secretary Pompeo himself had made visits to North Korea. He had hosted North Korean representative in the US. Official level meetings had taken place on the demilitarized zone. Both presidents had reached Singapore 36 hours before their meeting, and officials were having the meeting, and obviously they were there to provide guidance in the background if required. So there was certainly a lot of preparation. And going forward, especially where technical details have now to be thrashed out and implemented, I think it will have to be done at official levels, and especially on the nuclear and missile question. There are a lot of technical issues involved. For example, in the negotiation with Iran, it had gone on for months and months, and high-level technical people were involved in those discussions. So it will be there, but certainly I think both President Trump and Chairman Kim would need to be involved to see if, as and when the technical discussions run into difficulty, whether they need to intervene to guide that process, and that would certainly be required.
Ramesh, you wanted to make a point here?
Yeah, I just wanted to draw a parallel, and Ambassador Singh may tend to disagree with me on this, but the Indian and North Korean nuclear programs are dissimilar. They are not the same. The trajectories are different. The contexts are different. At the same time, imagine that it took India almost a decade and more to get going from the time they tested their nuclear weapons in 1990 till the time they actually signed the India-US nuclear deal 10 years later in 2008. So the US-North Korea rapprochement or détente will not happen overnight in one meeting, in one day here in Singapore. It is a long, drawn-out process. It will take time, energy, patience, and perseverance from both sides. So one is to see this in the context of a part of a process which both will undertake going forward. The two principals have laid out the roadmap, have signaled their respective bureaucracies and diplomats that, look, this is your task, you have to accomplish it in a certain time frame, and let's go ahead and do the job and get the job done. So to my mind, this is a good example of how Trump functions, the Trump government functions, top down, instructing, setting out the agenda and asking the diplomats to go out and get the job done.
In that sense, this top-down diplomacy, has it worked so far at least?
Look, there's always in diplomacy things moving upward and things moving downward, because you do a lot of preparation at the functional levels, but you need top-level guidance, because sometimes new policy, new parameters have to be set, and that can only come from the top. So here clearly I think the top-level decision was that President Trump willing to meet and take the process. And after that there was a lot of functional level discussion, preparation that was carried out. So again, going forward, I think it will be flows in both directions. Technical levels will work, they will need high level guidance. Yeah. And I just wanted to mention in response to what Ramesh said, that there's a huge difference between the Indian and the North Korean, because the North Korean program has been based on clandestine technology. The Indian case was very different. And when India and the US started their discussion, the bottom line was that it was an effort to recognize the advanced nature of India's program, and there had been no clandestine aspect involved. And there is no such commitment on the North Korean side.
To that extent, is it more fair to say that it would be based more on the Pakistan model, the North Korean?
I would say perhaps closer to the Iran model, because not even the Pakistan, because Pakistan is certainly based again on clandestine aspect, and US has not signaled in any way that they're willing to recognize their program in a manner that they have done civil nuclear cooperation with India.
Sure.
But I think in their mind at the moment they will probably need to compare it with the Iranian program, although the difference is that North Koreans have tested nuclear weapons and the Iranians had not. So we have to see how it plays out.